So we are done with the first half of the course, which is data compression and encryption, right? So first half means what? Data compression we are done with. So we are done with how to compress data. So we have crossed the first hurdle in the course. So the next hurdle is encryption. Now what happens is we studied why compression is important, right? So we also studied that it is not only about compressing the, or it is not about only storing the data, it is also about the transmitting the data, right? Because if you have a huge amount of data, it will take more time to transmit. So that's why compression is important. And we studied text compression, for which lossless compression is required. So we cannot have lossy compression for text compression. So what were the techniques used? Huffman coding, dictionary coding. So dictionary coding was again having three techniques, which were LZ77, LZ78 and LZW. Then we also had arithmetic coding, right? So then we went to image compression. So we studied JPEG, JPEG LS, JPEG 2000 and various nuances regarding to them. Then we went to video compression, and finally we studied audio compression. So we studied MPEG audio basically, right? So once we have compressed the data, so what we do, we send it. Now when we are sending data, it should be secured, right? So that's where encryption comes into picture, right? So the next part of the course is encryption. So how to encrypt data, that will study from the 4th module to the 6th module. Okay, so let's start about this. So again the topic is encryption. This is the generalized topic from all the 3 modules. So the first part of the syllabus is regarding security goals. So before that, just introduction to encryption, why we require it. So now if you date back to over more than century ago, so earlier there was no security. Okay, so earlier there was no question of security, but what was happening was, when computers came into being, data was considered to be useful but not something to be protected. Means you just had for example a word file or something, but it was not a very secure data. So it was just useful, for example, to store data related to farmer's income or one's income or something. So it was not something to be protected. But later on, as what happened, financial and personal data was getting stored in computers. So once financial and personal data is getting stored, so it is confidential data, right? So what happens, people realize that data on computers is an extremely important aspect of modern life. So what happened, therefore various areas in security began to gain prominence, right? So 2 typical examples of such security mechanisms are there. So one is what, which everyone uses now. What is it? So to provide a user identification and password to every user and use that information to authenticate a user. So that is what we do every day to access our Gmail, email IDs, Facebook, etc. So that is that first security mechanism. What is the other one? To encode information stored in the databases in some fashion so that it is not visible to users who do not have the right permission, right? So the databases themselves are kept secure, right? So we studied what is the need for security. So obviously we need security. So how did the security evolve? So that we'll see in this slide. So organizations, once they understood that security is important, they started employing their own mechanisms in order to provide for these kinds of basic security mechanisms. But what happened, as time passed, technology improved. So since technology improved, more applications came into being. For example, as technology improved, what happened, emails started came into picture. So once emails came into picture, then banking system, which was offline, it came online now. So you could do your transactions online. So this improvement in technology led to various new applications, like for the examples of emails and bank applications going online. So what happened, soon people realized the basic security measures were not quite enough, right? So, and further what happened, internet also came into picture, right? So this is how security was getting evolved. So what was, so but it was not solved in a nutshell. So what were the problems faced? So this is just one of our example, there can be many other examples. So one of the problems faced is, intruder can capture the credit card information. So if you see this picture, one of the clients is sending a data to the server, and what is he sending? Let's say he is sending to his bank server. So he is sending his customer ID, order ID. Let's assume he has ordered something online. So order ID generated through his login he is having his own customer ID, then what item he has ordered, that item ID is there, and since he is paying for that item, he has put in his credit card number which is issued by Visa and valid till Jan 2018. So he sent it to the server, and that server is storing that in the database, right, in the where the merchant has kept the server, right. So now intruder can capture the credit card details. This is the first thing. So let's say somehow we tackle this problem. So we have a solution for this problem that he cannot capture. But even if we solve this problem, we are not safe. Why we are not safe? Because attacker can gain access to merchant's database itself. What we said is sent to the server, but this data is stored in the database somewhere, right? So if attacker can gain access to merchant's database, not only the client's data will be released to the attacker, but everyone else's who has ordered from the same website, the attacker will gain access to all those credit card information. So this is a real life example that a Russian attacker, he called himself Maxim. He got access to one of the merchant's database, and he had access to almost 3 lakh credit card numbers. So you can imagine 3 lakh credit card numbers are how much, right? So what he did, he informed the merchant that I have the credit card numbers of your customers, so I want $1 lakh per credit card. $1 lakh per credit card as protection money, so that I don't disclose this information to anyone else. Now you might say, why will the merchant not pay? So the merchant, see, those are his customers, so he obviously has to keep them happy. So that is the reason he demanded such amount of money. But in this case the merchant did not agree, so he did not give the protection money. So as a result, what the Russian attacker called Maxim do, he published, of those 3 lakh credit cards, he published 25,000 credit card numbers on the internet. So you can imagine that someone's credit card, all credit card details are going online. It is such a blunder, right? So this is what can all happen in an online world. So that's why encryption is very important, and that's why we study this course, right? So then this is the actual syllabus we are starting with. So security goals or principles of security. So why we study principles of security? So principles related to security help us understand the attacks better. So we studied this form of attack. So what is this type of attack, etc. we'll see in due course of time. So what they do, they don't give us solutions, but they will help us understand the attacks better. And once we understand the attacks, obviously we can work on the possible solutions to tackle them. So that is the reason we study principles of security. So we don't directly jump to solution. To have a solution, we first need to understand the problem, what are the nuances of that problem, and then only we can have a feasible solution. So that is what is said here. So then let us assume that a person A wants to send a check worth $100 of rupees to another person B. So we are just taking a simple example. So from this example, we'll understand all the principles of security. So there are 5 to 6 principles of security. So we'll take this example as a concrete and a base example for all those security principles. So we assume that person A wants to send a check worth $100 to another person B. So normally what we will think, what are the factors that A and B will think of in such a case? So he will write the check for $100, he will put it inside an envelope and send it to B, right? So what will person A as well as person B think that third party does not come into picture? Can you just think over it? So just think over it. Then I'll go to the next slide. So what is the first thing that person A will think? So I have put it in an envelope, so no one should see my message, right? So no one should see the message. So that is the first thing which comes into mind. Then what he might think, that even if someone sees the message, he should not be able to change it, right? So this is the first 2-3 things we can think of, right? So let's see what we can think. So A will like to ensure that no one except B gets the envelope. Isn't it obvious? So A has written it to B. So obviously B should get the envelope. No one else should get it. And even if someone else gets it, he or she does not come to know about the details of the check, right? So this is talking about confidentiality of data. So this principle is of confidentiality. So see, this encryption topic, at least the security goals and theoretical part is very simple. You just go through the books once or this PPT once, if you have observed, I have not written punch points here. Usually if you read this PPT, it is a very bad PPT. Why? Because I have just written lines here and almost I am reading that. I know it that I am reading, but I have made this so that you can just refer this PPT and don't need to refer any other book, so that you can write your answers from this PPT only. That is the reason. But when you are making a professional PPT, you should just write the punch point as confidentiality here, then punch point as integrity here, then punch point authentication, non-repudiation, and so on, right? And then you can elaborate on that points. If you want, you can just write one line or so for that, but no need to write such paragraphs. Okay? Again, I have written this so that you can write your answers easily and you don't have to refer books. So what we were talking about? We were talking about that person A is writing a check of $100 to person B. So what factors he will think about? So we will like to ensure that no one except B gets the envelope, and even if someone else gets it, he or she does not come to know the details of the check. Okay, so this is called as what? Confidentiality. So A and B were further like to make sure that no one can tamper with the contents of the check. This is what I said a while ago in the previous slide. So even if someone is able to see it, he should not be able to tamper with the contents of the check, such as its amount, date, signature, name of payee, etc. So this is the principle of what? Integrity. So I can also say it is a form of honesty also. So B would like to, another thing, B would like to be assured that the check has indeed come from A and not from someone else posing as A, right? So as it could be a fake check in that case. So this is the principle of what? Authentication. So then what will happen tomorrow? So now A has sent, assume that A has sent a check to B, right? And A sent the amount as what? $100. So B went to the bank, deposited the check, and he got $100 in his account, right? But what if A refuses that he has sent the check? So A goes to the bank and says, my so and so amount is debited, but I never sent the check, right? So this is the problem, right? So the court of law will say what? He will use A's signature, because in each and every check we have a signature, right? So he will use A's signature to disallow A to refute this claim and settle the dispute. So this is called as what? Non-repudiation, right? So these are 4 principles of security. So these are not the only ones. Apart from this, we have 2 more, which are access, control, and availability. Now what is the difference? Why we don't have example related to this is because these are related to a particular message. That is not the case here. These are generalized things. Okay. And remember, even though I have written security goals / principles of security, if the question in the exam comes at write the security goals, there are only 3 security goals. They are confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So CIA, or they are called as CIA triad. So if someone asks you what are security goals, they are CIA. And that is the reason I have first mentioned C, I, and then A, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So let's further see what is confidentiality. So the principle of confidentiality specifies that only the sender and the intended recipient should be able to access the contents of the message. That is what we argued here, right? A will like to ensure that no one except B gets the envelope, and even if someone else gets it, he does not come to know about the details of the check. So A will like to ensure that no one except B gets the envelope. So it states that only the sender and intended recipient should be able to access the contents of the message. So this is what keeping the data confidential. And when does it get compromised? It gets compromised if an unauthorized person is able to access the message. So this is very simple, right? So you can draw this diagram in the exam. No need to draw these fancy computers. You can just draw a rectangle and A. You can write computer A or user A. So now let's say another user C is there. What it does? He gets access to this message. So A is transferring a secret to B, for example, but C gets access to this secret which is not desired and therefore defeats the purpose of confidentiality, right? So what is an example? An example of this could be a confidential email message sent by A to B which is accessed by C without the permission or knowledge of A and B. So this is called as attack in technical parlance. So this attack is what he is intercepting the message, right? So this type of attack is called interception, right? So what is interception? When A is sending a secret message to B, when C or any other person maybe gets access to that message, so the data is not confidential anymore, it is not secret anymore because a third party knows that. So this is an attack, and that attack is called as interception. So what is the main cause of interception? It causes loss of message confidentiality. So sometimes the question comes, write the various attacks that threaten confidentiality, integrity, availability. So what is the attack threatening confidentiality? It is interception, right? So that's why I've made this simple animation so that you can remember it. So let's proceed further. So next attack is integrity. So integrity, as I said, it can mean honesty also, right? So it is related with that terms. So when the contents of a message are changed after the sender sends it, means a person A, for example, has sent a message to person B, but someone C accesses that message. He does not only access that message but also changes it. Then what happens? Integrity is lost. So when the contents of a message are changed after the sender sends it, but before it reaches the intended recipient, we say that the integrity of the message is lost, right? So you can give myriad number of examples here. So one of them I have mentioned here. It is not necessary that you give this example only. You can give any other example which is conducive to this principle of security or security good. So for example, suppose you write a check for $100 to pay for goods bought from the US. However, when you see your next account statement, you are startled to see that the check resulted in a payment of $1,000, right? Means what happened? You logged into the website, for example Amazon.com, you entered your debit card or credit card details, you saw the message as $100 will be debited, right? However, when the transaction was completed, you see that instead of $100, $1,000 was completed. So someone in between attacked your information, changed it from $100 to $1,000, but used your password only and your details only. So that is the example of integrity, right? So this again you can explain this with diagrams. So why I am stressing on diagrams is because the first thing which the examiner sees is picture, and the picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So if he sees this, he'll get an idea that the student knows something, right? So he's bound, so he has more confidence in giving marks to you. So that is the reason images are very important when you write your answers. So you see A is transferring the message to B. So this should be the ideal route of the message. And what is the message? It is transfer $100 to D, for example, right? But what is this is the ideal route, but what is happening? C is getting access to that message. So this is the actual route of the message. So he is not only accessing the message, he is saying that don't transfer $100 to D, he is saying transfer $1,000, and apart from changing 100 to 1000, he is also changing the recipient. So that is, he is telling don't transfer to D, it should be B here actually, don't transfer to B, transfer it to me only, right? And he sends it here. So for example, if this is a bank, what will it think? It has come from A only, because bank does not know what is happening in between, right? So the amount will be debited from A, but it will not be transferred to the bank, but it will be transferred to where the person C, right? So this is the example of this type of attack is called what? Modification. Why is it called modification? Because it is obviously modifying the data, right? So modification causes loss of message integrity. So again, if the question is what is the attack on data integrity, so what is the answer? It is the attack is called as modification. Means the message is actually modified. What was happening in here? The message was only intercepted, but it was not modified, right? So I can say safely that for integrity, the confidentiality is lost as well as integrity is lost. So next security goal is availability, right? So what does it say? Without seeing this, we can say that it is the system should be available at all the times. So very simple example, if you are accessing internet, so it should be available at all the times, right? So that is the need of the today's world, right? Especially in today's world, it is need of the hour. So availability should be very high. So the principle of availability states that resources, that is information, should be available to authorized. It should be available and it should be available only to authorized parties at all times. This is also important, right? So for example, due to intentional actions of another unauthorized user C, an unauthorized user A may not be able to contact a server computer B as shown below. So you see, this is the setup. This is the user A, this is the server B. So A should ideally be able to access server B because he is the authentic user of that, right? But what happens? There was user C who did some operations here and he blocked the access to user A. So for A, the server B is not accessible. So this would defeat the purpose of availability, and such an attack will be called as what? Interruption, because his service is getting interrupted, right? So interruption puts the availability of resources in danger. So what is the attack threatening availability? It is interruption, right? So then these were the three goals. So security goals were confidentiality, integrity and availability. So these are not goals anymore. So I will change it here only. So this is not a goal. So you have seen authentic. No, we have not seen authentication. So let's see what is authentication, right? So we can understand it with the example of a very simple example. For instance, suppose that user C sends an electronic document over the internet to user B. Okay, so what is happening? C is sending some document to B. However, the trouble is that user C had posed as user A when he or she sent this document to user B. Now what is happening? C has sent a document to B, but what is happening? Actually C has posed as user A and sent the document. So how would user B know that the message has come from user C who is posing as user A, right? So let's take a real life example for that. A real life example of this could be the case of user C posing as user A, sending a funds transfer request from A's account to C's account, right, to bank B. The bank might happily transfer the funds from A's account to C's account since it is not aware. After all, it would think that the user A has requested for the funds transfer. So this concept is shown in the figure which is further given. So this type of attack is called as what? Fabrication, right? So what is the attack threatening authentication? It is fabrication. So it is called as fabrication of the person. So fabrication is possible in absence of proper authentication mechanisms, right? So this is that thing. So this is user A, and let's say this is the bank. So, and this is user C. So C is telling the bank that I am user A, and bank has no mechanism to ensure to check for the authenticity of user. So it assumes that C is the user A himself. So whatever he says, for example, transfer so and so amount to me, so bank transfers it, right? So authentication mechanism help establish proof of identities. The authentication process ensures that the origin of an electronic message or document is indeedly correctly identified. So this is about what? Authentication. So next is non-repudiation. Okay. So this is very simple. So there are situations where a user sends a message and later on refuses that he had sent that message, right? So for instance, user A could send a funds transfer request to bank B over the internet. After the bank performs the funds transfer as per A's instructions, A could claim that he or she never sent the funds transfer instruction to the bank. Thus this is called as repudiation. Thus A repudiates or denies his or her funds transfer instruction. Remember, we are talking about the topic non-repudiation, but here we have explained repudiation. The principle of so what is non-repudiation now? The principle of a non-repudiation defeats such possibilities of denying something after having done it. Okay. So this is shown below. So A is telling to B, I never sent that message which you claim to have received, right? So this can be stopped with the help of non-repudiation. So what is non-repudiation? It does not allow the sender of a message to refute the claim of not sending that message. So at the start only we saw that example that if B deposits the check in his or her account, their money is transferred from A account to B account. But if A refuses, what the court of law can do? It will say that in the check your signature is there, right? So this is the principle of non-repudiation. So yeah. So then finally we have the last principle of security. So again here we have that security goals. I'm just doing this now because there should not be any confusion. wherever V, authentication is done, non-repudiation is done, right? So this is remaining. So finally we have access control. So what is access control? The principle of access control determines who should be able to access what, right? So there should be always, so if you right click on a folder in Windows and go in security, there will be something called as permissions. So you can give permissions to a particular user who logs in to your computer. So this is sort of access control. So one other example is, so as I said, you can give many examples. The sky is the limit for them. So you just think of it. So you don't have to buy at these things. So just read them once and try to understand them and you are done. So for instance, for example of access control, we should be able to specify that user A can view the records in a database. So he can view the database. Means he has only read-only rights, but he cannot update them. So we can say he does not have edit rights or writing the rights. So however, user B might be allowed to make updates as well. So an access control mechanism can be set up to ensure this, right? So access control specifies and controls who can access what. Okay. So I'll just show you an example of what I said just now. So let's say this is the assignment folder. I want to set access rights. So you can go to properties, you can go to sharing, then here there is advanced sharing, right? So here you can share this folder, then here you have this permissions, right? So you can talk about the permission, set the permissions here.